For the latest film interviews, reviews, and everything making news in pop culture, subscribe to Film Companion now.
Ramesh ji, welcome to Film Companion. How are you doing?
Hi, nice seeing you again.
Uh, 1971, when your first film released, and we're in 2021. That means it's been 50 years of Ramesh Sippy. So, congratulations.
Thank you, Rohini.
I think if I'm not wrong, and because people like yourself have to so many people telling your story, let me tell you the story that I've heard. I've heard this story where you were at LSE and you were called back by your father to take the reins and be an in-house director. I don't know how old you were at that time, but when you were asked to direct your first film, do you believe that you were ready to make it then?
Well, I was all excited. And talking of maturity, I was already married and had my first kid as well. So I think from some point of view, I was a mature person. And the kind of cinema that I used to watch at that time, I was taken up by all kinds of cinema. And mature cinema was definitely one of them. Cinema from Europe, the French cinema, the Italian cinema, and of course, most of it from the West, England and Hollywood, of course. Those were some of the makers were from England, and a lot of them from Europe also made films in America. So I was influenced by all these good filmmakers and our own, very own wonderful filmmakers as well. Mehboob Khan and Raj Kapoor and Guru Dutt. And taking names is always a problem because you leave some wonderful names out.
Yes.
So Bimal Roy and lots of wonderful filmmakers to inspire you. And yes, I always thought, if you have to make cinema, and these are the masters, and their works are worth following. You do make your own kind of cinema, but you be inspired and led by these wonderful makers. Yes.
I remember reading an article where you said, you wrote it, and you'd written this piece talking about the impact that I think Mother India had on you. You were 13 when you saw it and you went to Liberty Cinema, and that sort of never left you, right?
Yes. I think Mother India was one of our finest films. At that point in time, to watch a film of that magnitude, the outdoors, the action and drama, and Nargis ji and her, and Sunil Dutt, of course, Rajinder Kumar too. But seeing a film like Mother India made you feel, wow. Having seen Gone with the Wind and David Lean's films, one thought, well, these can only be made in the West, but not so true. These were made in our country by our makers.
Yes.
You take Mughal-e-Azam, you take Ganga Jamna, you take, all these films were absolutely fabulous films. So getting inspired by them, the main thing you derive from these people is the way they made, the kind of resources and the kind of, almost always, all these wonderful makers almost went bankrupt making these films. I mean, that's the kind of thing, the commitment that was there to it. Put everything into the film.
Correct.
And it will bring it back. That's how cinema was in those days. Yes, there were financiers. Yes, there were people backing. Yes, there were distributors. But you had to be the one taking that chance and taking that and pushing it all the way.
I've always wondered, as somebody who had a foot in the movies, was that an advantage or was it a disadvantage, when you started out making the films? Because I know for a fact that when you made your first film, it was a subject that was ahead of its time. Even today, when you watch Andaaz, it's not a subject that's so easily, sold or pitched, because here you have two unconventional leads. Somebody, they're not real, the boy and girl, boy meets girl love story. Did you look at that as an advantage, or was it a disadvantage at any point?
For me, I thought, I want to make a mark, I need to be a little different. If I make the same things that everybody else is making, it's not going to stand out. Doing it after Andaaz, a very commercial film like Seeta Aur Geeta was okay. That was fine because I'd already shown some work that was of a different kind. And now doing the conventional stuff, but also doing it as well as possible. And so it was important at the time of Andaaz to say to the world that I didn't keep that in mind when I was making it, but it was important to say that, like, to convince Mr. Shammi Kapoor, he said, you know what people like me for, my dancing, my and my that rebellious image that I have had all my life. You sure this is the kind of film you want to make? And I said to him, but how many times are you going to keep doing that? So why not we do something a little different?
Correct.
He gave it a thought. I mean, just gave it okay, all right, let's see what you have. You want to do this? That's okay. I said, you've done so much work. And so much of what you say is right. But then, don't you want to try different things? And this will give you an opportunity to do that. Finally, he was convinced and said, right, let's go with it. Running around trees and all was going on around me all the time. I mean, all the films that were being made.
Yeah.
So I think it was, in a sense, it was a challenge. In a sense, it brought out that extra in me, which probably had I gone for a normally commercial subject, may not have happened.
And Rajesh Khanna, that amazing cameo that took, India by storm. Let's talk about that.
Yes, why not? I think my father, Mr. G.P. Sippy, he happened to give him the first break.
Yes.
The film was Raz with Babita. Both of them were introduced to that film. And then he made another film for the company with Narinder Bedi as director, Bandhan, with Mumtaz and him. So by the time Andaaz came along, we had a good relationship. And when I offered him this role, he did not even hesitate. He just said, you want this? You got it. I think, if I remember right, I gave him a sports car that he wanted. Some little...
Amazing. Was this in the film or outside of the film?
This is outside of the film.
Outside of the film.
For the film.
For the film, correct.
For doing, for this gesture of his,
Fantastic.
My gesture was that. Also, I think he caught the spirit of the song, and we happened to be a damn good motorbike guy. It was without my saying so that while the shot was on Marine Drive, he put his, we went into the shot and he put his feet on the handlebar.
Yes.
So it was quite a moment, and Hemaji sitting behind him, sort of, there was a real expression on her face. Oh my God, what is this guy doing? But it came out so well within the song, the spirit of it. I think it made the character, it made that romance, it made that and something unforgettable for her, character, Sheetal. So, and of course, the sad version of Zindagi Ek Safar Hai Suhana also worked very nicely when he met with the accident, he quarreled with his father, and so all put together, the young romance which would normally have been missed was all there because of Rajesh Khanna and of course energy with him. So I think it all came together well. Let me tell you something about Andaaz. It's not as though it was a runaway hit or anything like that. It did very well in the cities, in the hinterland and villages, or not the villages, we didn't have cinemas even then, but in the smaller places, towns and things, it didn't get a very big audience. So that's how Seeta Aur Geeta.
Yeah, and Seeta and Geeta setting the mold for, I mean, I'm a 90s kid, right, Ramesh? So I grew up with my Seeta Aur Geeta, which was Chalbaz. And then when I grew up, and my mom and dad used to look at me saying, "Yeah, tum log kya Chalbaz dekho, Seeta Aur Geeta dekho." And that's when I discovered Seeta Aur Geeta, and I said, "Oh my God, it's the mold." Ultimately, it was amazing. I also think it was so radical for its time because the idea of having two heroines instead of two heroes, because that used to be the norm. We'd seen, Ram or Sham before that. We'd seen other films, but the idea of having a female protagonist, and to me, that was exciting. What made you want to make that film?
Exactly that.
Wonderful.
That a lot of films have been made with two heroes, and I mean, the hero playing a double role. So why not a female version? And the more I thought about it, I felt the weaker girl, Seeta, it's much more natural for a woman to be exploited. And when Ramasham Prasad Dilip Kumar was exploited as Ram, he played it beautifully. He was humble, he was weak and afraid. But it seemed that why doesn't he just
break out,
come out of this and wake up from this? But then it needed his brother, twin brother, to come and do that.
Save
I
him.
said, this would be far more fitting for a woman. And I just felt strongly that it would be appreciated a lot because of that. And women have been exploited long time. And I'm not saying they are no longer exploited. I'm sure it still happens, but we have come a long way from there. But at that time, definitely it was an important thing. We're talking almost 50 years back, yes. So it was, because that was just in 72, the very next year.
Yes.
So it's 50 years next year for Seeta Aur Geeta.
Amazing. We're celebrating an anniversary every time we speak, and may it be this way. I remember last year we met and we did a Zoom call. I thought it was the greatest Zoom call ever because, we had you, we had Hemaji, we had, Javed Sahab join us. And it was, of course, to celebrate 45 years of Sholay. And there's been so much talked about Sholay. I assume that you'd be tired of talking about it. But I still have one question to ask you, which is and we all know the stories that, in the beginning, again, Sholay did not, look like the blockbuster it turned out to be. Nobody expected it to be such a big cult film. But do you feel that once it achieves this sort of cult status, which was much later, but in the aftermath of that, because it became such a big hit, did you ever feel burdened that this was something that you created, that this monster became this big? Do you ever look at Sholay? Are you tired of talking about Sholay? Let me ask you that.
No, and in any case, it's not like Sholay was planned to be a small film or an ordinary film.
Yes. Yes.
It never was.
It never
I
was.
mean, the trade pundits may have predicted disaster for it, but the film was, films were not made for those budgets ever. Maximum budgets in those days must have been 1 crore rupees or something. We went even less, because Seeta Aur Geeta had cost about 40 lakhs to make. So I thought putting on a budget of 1 crore would be huge and it will give me everything I needed to. But it went on to cost 3 crores. So you can imagine my father's must have been jumping, thinking, but he never, ever let me feel that I was overspending or anything like that. It's just that we'd gone into a whole new world and trying to do the best to make a film of that kind became a very challenging job and cost a lot of money to achieve all that. You may plan a sequence in a week and it takes 3 weeks.
Yes.
And finally, that action sequence on the train, it was more or less the last work we did shooting-wise. That took 7 weeks to shoot only that scene.
Yes, and we've spoken about this in the past where, I know this about you, that you were so particular about the right light. And it wasn't just the camera and the energy and the actors and their takes. It was also about things that were out of your control. And I think that Waiting for the Light is one of my favorite examples. If I had to ever give a class about Ramesh Sippy, this is what I would lead with. I would talk about that scene, where Radha lights the lamp. And, you took a significant amount of time waiting just for that light to hit. So I think those are the moments that we live for, right? When you're making the movies.
Yeah. And you don't plan it all like that. You know that this is the sequence you want to do. And since we had the sets constructed accordingly, you can see it's not like we went into Jayaji's bedroom or anything like that. There were no scenes there, so it was not necessary to construct it.
Correct.
But yes, that whole corridor of where the lamps are lit. So that was very important. And of course, the little outhouse where these two were stationed, Garamji and Amitji, and that was planned. And this particular sequence was planned, yes, that he will be playing the mouth organ and she will be lighting the lamps. And then on the set itself, designing it and getting it done that way and lit that way. And finally, the cameraman said, but if you want the best effect, we can only capture that if we take the shot at a particular time just before sunset.
Right.
Just that magic hour before sunset. No, it's not even an hour. It's those few minutes.
Yes.
But for that, one had to plan after lunch break. Before lunch, we used to shoot something else. And after lunch, we'd get to this spot. All arrangements would start. And by about 4:30, we would be ready, start rehearsing. And then around 5:30, just at that correct time, the artificial lights would be added on. But to get that sky of that color, just at that right moment, which in reality also is the time you turn on the lamps because the light is going off. The natural light is going and you needed to have that. So it added that to their whole romance. It added something unspoken, something unsaid, and yet lyrical, and yet that romance came into it without saying a word. So that's how it happened. Yes, you have to strive for those moments. You have to wait for those moments. You got to pay for those moments. Pay for all that waiting.
You got to pay for those moments. I must talk about this as well. That And then what you did with Sholay for the big screen, you did for the small screen as well. And it's amazing. We're living, they call these times the golden age of television, across the world because of Netflix and the web series and everything that we're watching. But to me, the golden age of Indian television was when you made Buniyaad. And we've had this beautiful chat about Buniyaad where, you were literally asked to literally direct this show. It was important that you direct it. And at the same time, it was a twice a week commitment. And, you started shooting on film and then you went to video with it. And at that time, that story was so big because it was almost the story of an entire nation. Looking back now, when we talk about this golden age of television, I have always wanted to ask you this. Did you ever look at TV as a different medium, or did you just feel that storytelling the size of the screen does not matter for the storytelling?
I think everything is a challenge. When you start, and I started with Andaaz and I took a different kind of story, that was my challenge. Having made all these films and then shifting to television, shifting to something smaller, as you call it, was as challenging. How would I be able to do that? And how do you expand a story into 104 episodes? That was the challenge, and how to hold the interest, how to end each episode on a note that you want to see the next one.
Correct.
These were the challenges. They were different from cinema.
Yes.
Cinema, at the interval, you're supposed to come out and have a drink. And for Sholay, nobody wants to come out of the cinema because they've just heard a story from Thakur, which was so devastating and real, and nobody got out of the cinema. So what do you do? Those are what cinema, when it throws challenges at you, and you come up with things that people talk about like this afterwards. It's very, that's what gives you the satisfaction. So going to television from a big screen was definitely an ask. So I had to look up some of the stuff made, the Bold and Beautiful and things like that were made in the West, just to see how did they do their narratives and how storytelling from that point of view. So you've got to get the audience involved with your characters and involved in such a way that they keep growing with it and experience everything along with the storytelling. And of course, there were the well-rounded story. You get the comedy, you have romance, and you have drama and emotions and everything, and the national spirit as well. So all these things coming together in one big serial, it was a huge challenge. If the big screen was a challenge, and so was the small screen a big challenge.
Yes, it was. And I remember that, Buniyaad was that sort of show that suddenly made us not want to leave our homes, right? Like people would actually say, hum baat phone bhi aata tha, then we'd say, we talk to you after the show. And it's amazing how we're sitting in 2021 where all of this is at our fingertips, where we are the masters of when we want to watch our movies or our web series. But at that time, television used to have this sort of magical glue. It would come on only at one time and everybody had to experience. It was a beautiful collective experience. And I think that's what Buniyaad did for us as a nation. It suddenly brought us all together a little more often than the movies did. The movies would be one.
Most people would, if they were invited for dinner, they would say, well, we'll either reach there before 8 o'clock and watch that and then we'll start the party, or we'll watch it at home and then come. Choice is yours, they would ask the host. Are you going to be able to show us Buniyaad? Otherwise, we'll come after that.
I read somewhere
Programs were planned according to that, according to Buniyaad.
Yeah, and I read somewhere last year that, you still hadn't been paid for Buniyaad. Is that done? When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, how many years has it been? And I remember that there was a chat about this as well.
Yep. 86. So
86 to 2020. Well, Doordarshan, I hope you got your act together on that. I'm going to jump back, of course, to the landmarks that we were talking about. We're talking about a very, very specific landmark, and that is, of course, in 1982, Shakti. And I remember you telling me at that time, the idea of Shakti was so important to you because, in a way, you had imagined this as this sort of saga between a father and a son, right? And that was, somewhere in the back of your mind, this sort of residue of a Mother India, where there was a mother and a son. And when you did that with Shakti, do you want to talk to us about that also in the light of, Dilip Sahab, who was part of this film?
yes, it's the right time to talk about it because fortunately he just left us. It was quite something to be working with him. It was my dream as a young man to really someday have an opportunity to work with an actor like Dilip Kumar, the one and only. I mean, that time it was like, and it was almost impossible to make that dream come true.
Mm-hmm.
But fortunately for me, it did come true. And yes, to add to that, to bring these two superb actors together, Mr. Dilip Kumar and Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, bringing them together on the screen as father and son. What else can you want? And that was very satisfying as a film. And it was not at all made for a big screen kind of a thing. It was not made with that in mind. It was made for this drama of father and son, and mother caught between them. It was this conflict. And the amazing part is again, it was a very tight-knit kind of, it was not drama of a loud kind of drama. It was very contained and you could feel it all. And it would not have been possible without two such fine actors. And of course, Rakiji and Smita Patil led support to make it all work. I think it was an entirely unbelievable experience to make the film, and yes, the results too were very satisfying because till today a lot of people have often told me it's probably my best work. Now, not Sholay, they keep reminding me, not Sholay, Shakti.
Wow. No, it is. Ramesh, I think as my last question, I just want to say, over the last 5 or 6 years, you've decided to consciously give back with the Academy, which is the Ramesh Sippy School of Cinema and Excellence. So I think that's one thing that is very clear, that you always want to have something to do with the movies. And also with Shimla Mirch that released, I also felt that this is a great, great way in which there was still a movie in you, and that's why you directed another film, right? I'm sure the fans would want to know today, in 2021, as we celebrate 50 years, is there another film that we can expect from you as a director?
I would never put that off.
Lovely.
It's always a possibility. I'll always be thinking about it. And in any case, through the Academy, some of these youngsters will come out with stuff, and it'll be satisfying to see all my young students going out into this world, challenging world, probably more challenging than when I was there. I have been there. I think they will also come up with some nice things, and I look forward to that as well. And satisfying to have this institute, and of course my wife has been the one really working hard behind the scenes and making. In this case, she doesn't even work behind the scenes; she works right in front.
Yes.
So she leads from the front. I'm the one who's again gone behind the camera. So as we say, I watch and she works. So together we have done something. Rohan's part of it as well, and we hope that the future of cinema is safe. It will. There are other institutes, and then there will always be people from other walks that come in. But good that today we have so many opportunities for even those who want to learn to come and participate in these courses and then take their chance in life and make something they really want to make.
Fantastic. Rameshji, I have been one of the lucky ones who had an audience with you over time. And I really, really want to thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity once again. It has been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much.
A pleasure too.